Hello everybody and welcome back to Weather Mountains. This is my tutorial Let's Play, episode 8. In the last episode, towards the end, we had a bit of a calamity. Well, a giant creature arrived that we had to fend off, and while we were victorious, we did lose our only soldier. So, my theme for this episode is we're going to be working on these traps over here. We're going to be expanding bedrooms for our increasing existence and number of dwarves. We're going to be trying to keep our needs happy and looking at some unhappy dwarves. And we're going to be doing our best to build a squad that works. So, what we're going to be doing, without further ado, is we're going to take a look at this unhappy dwarf. Just kind of get some sense of what is making them so upset. So we're going to have a peek. Ashamed after having no shoes. Well, that's a pretty major concern. And mortified when uncovered. If we look at this dwarf, they currently only have a shirt on. We are at the point in this fortress where some of our kids have grown into children from being little infants. And if they arrive in the fortress as an infant or, begin their life as an infant, as they grow older, they will need clothing. So right now we only have some clothing available for them, which clearly isn't enough. So we're also going to need to work on our clothing industry. Dwarf Fortress is a game about having a lot of things to tackle, and it's almost impossible to get to all of them, unless you're extraordinarily competent with the game, which many people are not. So one of the first things I'm going to do is I'm going to automate up our metalworking industry, just so that we can get some more iron going. But even at a glance, we already have a ton of iron already sitting here, and we also have some iron gear already sitting here. So what I think we're just going to do is we're going to queue up full sets of weapons made out of iron for our military. We could go for steel, which would require making pig iron and add an extra 2 steps into the thing, but considering we still just have a very basic setup, and our first round of weapons for our dwarves is kind of just for training up our weaponsmiths and metalsmiths anyways, it's not necessarily a bad idea to just start off with iron. Besides, if we decide we don't like it, we can always melt it down later. As we take a real quick glance at everything, we do already have our short sword and our helm and our breastplate and our greaves already queued up from the previous run. But what I'm going to queue up is I'm going to queue up a iron mail shirt. After queuing up that iron mail shirt, we're going to queue up some caps, which, believe it or not, any dwarves will wear. And we're also going to just kind of focus this down a little bit, and we're going to go specifically into just iron clothing that they can wear. So iron leggings, which, by the way, is actually another useful thing because it goes underneath their boots and gives them more leg protection. So we're actually going to do a bunch of those, practice those. And we're also going to make iron. I think we already had breastplates queued up, so scrolling down a little bit, we had helms. I'm just trying to think, is there anything on here that I am missing? Because as good as I am at this game, I don't remember everything. I don't think we queued up gauntlets. Yes, we had greaves, but not gauntlets. Perfect. So iron greaves and iron gauntlets are now queued up. So we have this rather intensive, long list of things that we have working on. We do have that job set for charcoal in case we run out. And a bunch of work here is actually about to get done. Our magnetite ore and various other things are all about to get done. So that is good to see. So now that we have plenty of things queued up down there, I'm currently under the impression that we don't have any more anvils, and I would like to increase the number of anvils that we have. So I'm going to queue up iron anvil, which we can make because we already have anvils, which, again, what came first, the anvil or the anvil question. We're going to see if I can increase the priority on that anvil just slightly. Let's move it up. 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 And just get that one done sooner. Those top jobs are going to get done pretty quickly. Excellent. So now that that's done, I said that we were going to find somebody for the military. Now, the thing about military is we actually need to go in. Okay, I already did delete that squad. The thing that we're going to need to do here is I need to find a dwarf that wants to be in the military, that would do well in the military. And this is a tricky thing. It's a very tricky thing to pin down because in order to be a dwarf in the military, you need to be a dwarf that isn't easily stressed, and you need to be a dwarf that isn't easily upset. You also need to be a dwarf that is brave in the face of imminent danger. Ideally, obviously this is optional to a degree, but ideally you would like a dwarf that is brave in the face of imminent danger. If you don't have this, then what's going to end up happening very quickly is your dwarves are going to get quite distressed by the fact that they are constantly being thrown into the quite literal meat grinder of society and having no options aside from getting ripped into tiny little pieces by the scary things that are outside. We're going to jump up to the surface real quick, and I'm just going to queue up a bunch of gathering jobs so that we can get more plant cloth going. I'm also just kind of refreshing exactly where we are in this episode and things that need to be done. And then we're going to build a squad. Let's get right to it. Since we're also gathering plants right now, the next thing we're going to take a peek at is this dwarf right here. This is Domas. This is a dwarf that is rather upset. They've gone through some rough points, so let's see if we can suss out a little bit about what we can do to improve their current mental state. So if we go into their thought screen, we can see that they aren't easy after being unable to pray to the livid for too long. They're also annoyed after being caught in the rain. It seems like really, aside from dwelling upon being caught in the rain, which isn't that major these days, their main concern is that they're lacking a temple. So that's definitely something we need to prioritize. We need to get some specific temples done. I don't think we're going to get that done in this episode, probably in the next episode, because this episode is going to be focused on military. While these dwarves are collecting all of these resources, I'm going to be poking around and trying to spot one that would do well as a militia commander, and then I'll continue speaking. So I'm looking at this dwarf. This is Colette. Colette is our manager, and I think Colette might be a good person to pick as somebody to run our military. And there's a few reasons for this. If you go into the personality tab and you look at their traits, they have these listed. He is not readily moved by natural beauty, and he is conflicted by this as he values artwork and its creation. He is a pessimist, and he finds helping others emotionally rewarding, meaning he will get happy thoughts out of teaching. He sometimes can act without deliberation, and he is calm. He has a calm demeanor, and he rarely feels discouraged. He has little interest in joking around, and he often feels cheerful. He often feels lustful, and he is stubborn, and occasionally overindulges, and needs alcohol to get through the working day. And he likes working outdoors and only grumbles mildly at crappy weather, and doesn't really care about anything anymore. This one at the bottom doesn't really care about anything anymore. Means that he's been through a lot, and he probably won't be too easily stressed. Also, if we go over to his values, he personally believes that the acquisition of power over others is the ideal goal in life and worthy of the highest respect, and dreams of ruling the world. We are going to move this manager from the position of manager to the position of militia commander, which actually isn't that bad. We also need to assign our mayor to their given roles. So we do have that militia commander who I chucked in there just to make that squad in a rush. We're just gonna real quick scroll through here until we spot our manager, and we're gonna give the manager this job. Keep in mind, if you don't like a dwarf with the particular job of a noble, you can swap it to anybody at any time. Now, the unfortunate part of this is I do need to remove Colette from these other jobs, as being a militia commander is a full-time gig. So we're going to need to move somebody else to this position. We could give it to Godin, who was our previous manager, and I think that might not be a bad idea. Although this does mean that we're going to have to assign Godin to a different location. Or alternatively, now that I think about it, we could just give it to our mayor, who already has a bunch of the skills and is going to be assigned to a chair anyway, and have their other tasks minimized beyond that point. So we're going to scroll until we find Asmil, our manager, and we're going to replace our other dwarf in all of these jobs. Now, as you can see, we have a bunch of things that we need to assign our mayor to. So we need to get him at the very least the basic possible office so that he can do the tasks of a manager. And I do like to prioritize these and keep my nobles happy, so while those dwarves are gathering all those plants so I can get some semblance of a clothing industry up and running, as I seem to have run out of pigtails, we need to get him just a basic office. So we just need to locate where we put it, or alternatively assign a new one. Because he is a mayor, I think it is better for us to just simply give him a bigger office, which is going to be my priority here. So what we're going to do is we're going to dig out a small room right here, doesn't need to be too flashy, and just put a table and chair in it. That's going to be our mayor's office. Right behind it, we're also going to make our mayor's bedroom, which again doesn't need to be super flashy. It just needs to be slightly nicer than your average dwarven room. And then behind that, or maybe just well, actually, you know what? Because I have people asking me about this, we'll just make this bedroom back here into one big one, which is going to be their bedroom and dining room, and so that our mayor can have both of sleeping and eating quarters separate from the rest of the dwarves. Because, you know, mayors and other nobles are needy little bastards, which demand more than your average dwarf. Now, the other thing that we need to do is we need to get that military training. So we've already assigned our militia commander, who is our old dwarf, and we do need to get him training, and we need to get him training somewhere efficiently and hopefully somewhat effectively. So what we're going to do is we're going to set up a bit more of a proper military training area because, previously we didn't really have much of that. We just kind of had people assigned. So I'm going to set this area up as kind of a barracks. Now, this barracks is a public zone where anybody can kind of visit and come and go as they please. But at the end of the day, it does need some accoutrements for your military dwarves. So we're going to be placing that just outside of the mayor's office. I think that's a good spot for it. And it's not the nicest. I mean, it's sitting around these ore veins, but hey, at the very least, it's a barracks. So what we're going to do is we're going to assign that squad, and we're going to also tell them to store their individually assigned weapons and armor here. And while the game is saving, I just want to say thank you so much to everybody who's been hanging out on this series. It's nice to kind of have something that I can do when I'm not streaming and just put stuff together. There have been a lot of comments recently, and it's been very difficult for me to keep up with everything, but I try and read as many as I can, so just thank you for posting. If nothing else, even if I don't get the chance to respond, I do notice them, and it means a lot. All right, so now a few things have happened. As the game finished saving, we've rolled over into early winter, and we just got an artifact started. So what I will do is I'm going to pause the game so I can follow the artifact, but we're going to allow dwarves to store their stuff here. Then what we're going to do is we are going to assign, well, we've already assigned this squad here, is we're going to place 2 chests into this room. But it turns out we need some chests. So, well, I guess I could rip it out of a different room, but that would be a little mean. So instead what I'm going to do is, well, looks like I can't use that stoneworker's shop because it's already assigned. We're going to queue up some more stoneworker's shops because it's about time we do that. And I think the way we're going to build this, construct this crafting zone is make it vertically. We're just going to kind of start working our way directly down. So what I'm going to real quick do is I'm going to select all this. We're just going to move it down by 1 layer. And fortunately, while this is happening, our military is just going to go start training, even though that's just 1 dwarf. Then we're going to assign some other dwarves to the military after that artifact is good to go. This is Dwarf Fortress and all. I can say that I'm going to plan to do some things in a tutorial and then just straight up not get to them because the game just had other ideas. And I have had some comments on people saying, oh, you said you were going to do this, but you didn't. Well, I'm doing my best here. I'm still playing Dwarf Fortress, so if the game decides it doesn't want to let me do a thing, I don't really have that much of an option. But we've now set these to be dug out, and our dwarf here has claimed the mason shop and has actually already begun a mysterious construction. So let's have a peek. What did you grab? Okay, they just needed a block of shale. Well, that is excellent. Nice and quick. Maybe they'll even make us a chest, or in this case, I guess it would be a coffer, so that we could theoretically use it in our military zone. So now we can just get back to that. If we open up military again and we select our military, we're going to see that there's this button down here that says schedule. Now here we have several different options, and we can see the full schedule. We have several different options. We can set them on staggered training, which is on and off training. We can set them on no orders where they keep their weapons on, and or they keep their weapons at the ready and their armor on, but don't train. And then training around the clock. We're going to set them to training around the clock because you want your militia captain to get a little bit of a head start on training on the rest of your squads. And the reason you want them to get a little bit of a head start is that little bit of a head start makes them better at teaching other dwarves. One skill that military teaches dwarves a lot and really, really effectively, this is also learned in guild halls, by the way, is the teacher skill. Now, the teacher skill actively changes the speed at which they can teach skills to other dwarves. So if you let your militia commander train by themselves for maybe a month, not even that long, just a month, the rest of the squad will catch up way faster. And then you'll have more dwarves running around to do other tasks before you start them all training. So for right now, we're just going to assign this little dwarf right here to go do the military thing. So he's going to go pick up equipment. It's actually kind of fun. If you watch the sprite there, you can actually see them picking up their equipment in real time. Let's see what this dwarf favors, and that's going to be what this squad is going to become. Remember, if you want to assign specific equipment, you can always go to the equip button, and you can click on details. And there's a problem that a lot of people have been encountering, which is with shoes. Now, the problem with shoes, specifically high boots, is they can't wear high boots and low boots over top of shoes, so just normal shoes, which is a bit of an issue for a lot of people who are trying to make shoes work. There is a way to fix this, however, which is if you go, I'm going to back out just so that you know exactly what menu I'm in. If you click on equip, and then you click on details, and you click on uniform replaces clothing, and then confirm, this should fix that issue, assuming you have shoes available. So they will take off all their clothing, and they will swap it out for just the military garb. And this generally, from my experience, fixes the shoes issue. Although I don't think we have any shoes made yet because we just have the one forge and there's a lot of jobs in it. But the woodcutter has created Rakust Oresh, a shale mug, and claims it is an heirloom in the name of the family ancestor Ingiz Orbs. Oh, how Orbshauer? Orbshauer. Is that like a some sort of orbital dwarf? Let's take a peek at Orbshauer's dedicated, lovely little artifact here. It's worth 1,000 Zathal. This is a shale mug. All craftsmanship is of the highest quality. On the item is an image of Colette Vault Emerald, the dwarf, in shale. Colette Vault Emerald is laboring. The artwork relates to the settling of the dwarf Colette Vault Emerald in Weather Mountains in the early spring of the year 100. That's gorgeous. Absolutely wonderful. I'm really, really happy with that little artifact. We'll just let it go into the other locations so that they can be happy with it. Now, I'm noticing some jobs here are getting canceled. Do I have okay, that's probably the reason. I attached a give-take stockpile from this a little while ago, which is probably not the best idea. So let's just make sure that's turned off and make sure that dwarves can get to our metal smithing because they are not doing that currently. Well, let's just give it a second and see if those jobs start happening because they seem to have just been canceled. There we go. So that seems to have solved the issue. I shouldn't be using give and take stockpiles, honestly. Like, they're useful for clearing one out quickly if you need to, but man, very quickly I just screw them up. Over here, we're going to go queue up some processed plants because all of those plants that we worked on earlier are now going to be giving us seeds. We could actually set up surface farming, but I think that's a bit out of the scope of this current video. We're also going to jump down here and take a look at our next round of crafting, which looks pretty nice. We're also going to do a crafting area over here on this side, assuming, I do mean assuming, it doesn't decide to flood with more aquifers. But we're going to queue up a little tile right here, little area, and I'm going to make it nice and off-center and nice and strange just to annoy that one person in the YouTube comment section. And then we're going to go down to right to the side of it, and I'm going to build some stairs. So we're going to go up to here, I think, from around here up to this layer. We're also going to go down to this layer, and then I'm going to connect the two so they can easily run. Oh, I see. I still have stairs assigned. We're going to connect the two so that they can easily run. Perfect. Should do just fine. Nice little walkway between the two, connecting everything. So they can move across up top, and they can move across down at the bottom. Although note, they will cancel the jobs automatically when they encounter the creek from underneath. Even though it won't drain in, they will encounter it. When that happens, that's going to cause us some problems. All right, so let's see. Things seem to be queuing up nicely. We do have our dwarf making all of the armor and such that we're going to need, all of our swords, and we have our one dwarf training. So now we're going to go find some other dwarves to put into the military. Now, the only dwarf I ever really get picky with is the first one. As you saw initially, I was pretty careful about which dwarf I was going to add to the military as the first dwarf for the military. But once I get past the first dwarf, my concerns lower quite considerably. So after I've assigned the first dwarf, I'm then much more accepting of adding other dwarves to the military that maybe wouldn't be so mentally suited, purely because those dwarves are much easier to swap out. Whereas once you have a militia captain, you kind of need them to want to be a militia captain. This dwarf wants to fight, and he's bored about that, and already is satisfied remembering improving observation. Very, very good things for this dwarf. So we have that upset dwarf that I mentioned earlier. I wonder if some of these might actually be good fits for the military. Something I find with Dwarf Fortress is dwarves who like being in the military, who aren't in the military, generally do a really good job. So let's just have a peek and see if this dwarf would fit. He personally finds maintaining decorum a silly fumbling waste in time and has a negative view of those who exercise power over others and thinks friendship is important. Probably not good for the military. He generally acts impartially and is rarely moved to mercy, and he is disturbed by this as someone who dislikes those that seek power over others, and he is assertive and lives a fast-paced life, and he does not reveal personal information. He has a somewhat narrow focus on the current activity and doesn't cling tightly to ideas and is open to changing his mind. He's quick to anger and has a tendency to go of considering the advice of others. He's not inherently proud of his talents and accomplishments, and he's quite comfortable with those that have a different appearance or culture. Tends to be a little wasteful when working on projects. You know, I wonder if he has any skills. Because, like, on the face of it, it looks like he wouldn't enjoy it, but sometimes I've been surprised by dwarves before. But let's take a real quick peek here at other people's actual skills. So we have a proficient fighter here, this miner, who may end up being somebody I select. As we scroll down, you may end up with dwarves in your fort, by the way, that have very much proficient skills in fighting that hate it and will be really bad at it. But let's throw in this herbalist, and let's scroll down, and let's go for 6 or 7, I think. We don't need a full squad, a novice fighter, all right? But I do want to have at least a decent little squad here, just because I want to be able to fend off any other giants or ettins or titans or things that show up, because you don't want to have that kind of situation happen where suddenly there is just so much going on, and also now you're under attack by an enemy that you are not really equipped to defeat. So I'm going to just assign a couple more dwarves, and once I'm done, I'll continue speaking. So I did end up assigning a full squad of 10. I found a few dwarves that I thought would fit the bill, as well as some dwarves that maybe not, but might get some enjoyment out of learning a new skill at the very least. So now that we have that artifact and we have this done, I would like to get the proper accoutrements into here. And the dwarves have been working on this lower layer down here. So what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to jump down here, and we're going to queue up a couple more stone workers down here. Just a handful. I'm going to set the game to automatically keep building after placement, so I don't need to click that again. We're just going to use whatever the nearest stone is. I'm not too picky in this instance. It mostly just changes the color of the workshop and doesn't actually change the workshop at all for the negatives. So we're going to get those queued up. And then right next to it right here, I'm going to make a little furniture stockpile. And this stockpile is just going to be where they put furniture going forward. So we're going to make that, and we're going to accept it. I'm going to then set this as a furniture stockpile, and then they're going to just start bringing their furniture down. Now, you might notice that, oh no, we missed a tile. Well, I can just fix this real quick by queuing that up, clicking on the stockpile again, and clicking on this little paintbrush button, and then expanding it, which is absolutely revolutionary if you've been playing this game for a while. So now that they're bringing all that stuff down, we're also going to get a pretty good idea of how full all of these individual stockpiles are. So what I'm going to queue up now is I'm just going to queue up some stuff for those workshops. We're going to make ourselves a rock coffer, and we're going to make rock throne, and we're going to make rock table, and we're going to make rock armor stand, and we're going to make rock weapon rack. Now, you might be going, Blind, you could automate these. I know. It's that simple. But when it comes to furniture, I prefer not to automate anything. I don't mind automating food, and I don't mind automating usable consumable resources such as charcoal. But when it comes to things like furniture that I need a finite number of, I don't like automating them in almost any case. I find it to be generally a pretty net negative for the efficiency of my fortresses. But, I mean, maybe you have a different experience, and that is okay too. So we've made some rope reed, as you can see here. So something I'm actually going to do quite quickly is I'm going to jump up here to the surface. And because I'm kind of planning on sectioning off parts of this, I'm going to plant a rope reed farm. But the way I'm going to do this is, you see we have this like lovely little pasture right here full of our livestock. Well, I'm just going to kind of make a farm right next to them. We're going to plant some rope reed. And rope reed is going to be where we're going to get our seeds and where we're going to be getting a lot of our clothing from, because I made the mistake of running out of pigtails, and you know that's going to happen, especially if you're newer to the game. So might as well set up a little bit of above ground farming, which still is a very dwarfy thing, even though some players will deny that it is entirely. I'm just going to queue that up, and it's going to take a few seconds to get built. And then once it's built, we're going to queue up rope reed farms. Now this is going to save us from having to manually harvest rope reed every season, which is going to be a huge boon for the future of our fortress, at least in the short term while we need clothing for people still. And we also have this lovely herd of yaks that are slowly growing up, and I'm looking forward to just simply being able to slaughter every single one of them and make them into something that's actually useful, you know, such as meat and leather for shoes. Of course. So we're going to get all of that done. We're going to get rope reed growing around this year round right here. And we're also going to queue up a few more traps, because as I said earlier, we're going to need more traps. So we're going to go over to over to the traps menu, which for some reason I always lose the location of, and we're just gonna place a couple more stonefall traps, but we need more mechanisms. So, just like anything else, this is one I should automate. Rock, mechanism, we're just gonna do, I think 25, and that'll be plenty for that. Sweet, so now we're gonna fly back down underground, and also I need to peek at this stockpile here. What is currently set to go in here? Everything. Okay. We are going to remove finished goods from this stockpile, just flat out. We are also going to take a real quick peek in and see what's down here. Weapons can be removed from here, as well as armor, I think. Yeah, we're going to do weapons and armor here. So armor is and also we can remove blocks from here. But where did armor go? So remove furniture. Why am I not seeing armor? Did I already remove armor? Oh, there it is. Duh. Sweet, perfect. So now that all that's done, we're gonna fly down here. We're gonna make ourselves a new armor stockpile right next to our military. And as you can see, our military strength grows, which is phenomenal. We are going to, I think, go one layer directly beneath this, which shouldn't be in the aquifer. And I should note, since I mentioned the word aquifer, I had some people comment that, man, you settled in an aquifer and you've dug around it. Well, I've already done largely what I intended to do with this aquifer, which is make it into a well. And there are other things I can do with this aquifer that I'll probably do in the further future, but at this point, there really isn't much that I need to do with this aquifer. I could channel up and dig out walls and be all fancy and silly, but that's almost a little bit redundant, I think. And Dwarf Fortress, it's always full of surprises. We've discovered a deep cavern, deep underground. Look at this. Ain't this wonderful? We've found more limonite, as well as new toys to play with. Well, that's going to be a fun change of pace for this fortress now, isn't it? We're going to knock out that corner, and we're going to make this area safe. So what we're going to do is we're going to dig out all these walls right here, and we're actually going to seal this in a little bit. The first spot I'm going to seal in is going to be right here, and the kind of goal is to remove any spots where critters can come crawling in. But let's just zoom out a little bit and give it a peek, shall we? Look at this. This is a really nice little cavern there. We have no idea what kind of creatures are going to be down here, by the way. I like how much I've missed it. Like, we're just right above it. We could have hit this in episode 1 if I went one layer lower. Oh man, this game's cool. Okay, so now that we've done that, we also have this lovely view up here. Well, that gives us more space to build and more idea of what we're building around. I mean, heck, look how close we came to crumbling into it initially, right off the bat. Damn. Let's see if any of those chests have been built. We're going to open up chest for coffers. Nope, none of them have been constructed yet. Okay, fine. And you want to know why they haven't been constructed? It's because my mayor isn't queuing anything up. You know why? Because I haven't placed his chair yet. Typical me. That's the beauty of Dwarf Fortress. I actually mentioned this at the beginning of this episode where I was just like, this is a game about doing its damnedest to make you forget everything that you've been doing for the last however long you've been doing it. And it is super good at it. It's super, super, super good at making you forget exactly what you needed to be doing. All right, so we're going to assign this to our mayor. And now he's got his meager study and can very easily go about doing all of his mayoral duties, which in this fort is a lot. And instead he decided to sleep. So, you know, actually, that's a good opportunity for us to find out where his bedroom is. Because if we can figure out where his bedroom is, then we can assign him to the proper bedroom. All right, so this he's going to get us unassigned from once this is assigned as his bedroom. We're going to plop in his 2 doors. And we are going to go up here to bedroom. And I'm just going to leave it on paint instead of like set up the whole thing as the bedroom. And then this corner is going to be our mayor's bedroom. So we're going to unassign him from this one. And we are going to assign our mayor to this one. So he's going to go sleep there tomorrow. Or not tomorrow, but the next time he sleeps. Let's see, do we have cabinets currently? We do not. But what we do still have is tables. So we're going to place a table right there, and that will be his basic office. I don't know if they've constructed any of the military stuff yet, but if they have, then I can give him his weapon rack. Nope. Can I give him his armor stand? Nope. Okay, fine. Fair enough. But he will get all those jobs queued up now, so hopefully, once we check down here, these should all get assigned. They're all set up and ready to go now. So now they've all popped up. And it looks like coffers are getting done first, which is excellent. I can actually change up the priorities on some of these just so that certain jobs get done more consistently at the same time. We're also going to move up here real quick, and we are going to make ourselves 2 more forges, as I've just noticed that our anvils have been completed. We're going to make these out of shale, just 2 more right here for right now. And we're getting into midwinter, so we don't need to worry about trading right now. But what we do need to worry about, though, is we have this growing number of upset dwarves. And it's probably due to lack of temple. We do have this temple, the Royal Clashes. However, unfortunately, the Royal Clashes is just a generic temple. So, I think the plan for next episode is we are going to build some more temples. And we're going to talk about temples. We have the basics of our military set up. We didn't get all the automating done that I wanted to do, and we didn't get all the clothing such that I wanted to do done. I'm gonna queue up a couple more of these just in case they can get done, which I think it's just gonna immediately cancel. And we did get that rope reed planted up here on the surface. We've run out of rope reed seeds, but that's good because it means they're all planted. So we will be getting rope reed as of next episode and can get back to that. So my hope for next episode is we continue to expand on this, and we are able to get that rope reed rolling at a nice clip. Thank you very much for watching this series. I know that I don't get to everything I say that I'm going to get to in each episode, but I like to think that this one was pretty satisfactory. We were, in fact, able to set up our military. I expanded a few things. We found the caverns, which I'm going to have to trap up as well, and we're going to have to do our best to make safe. I didn't make this into a weapons stockpile, but I'll do that right now as I'm doing the outro. And all I have to say is thank you very much, everybody, for watching this series. You know, I've said this a couple times now, but I do genuinely mean it. It is awesome to have my YouTube channel growing pretty exponentially, and it's like calmed down a little bit at this point, but it's still being very consistent, and it's extremely rewarding to see so many people jumping on and learning the game and checking out all this cool stuff. I do occasionally upload videos about other games, and those will pop up on this channel from time to time, and if you're interested in them, I hope that you take the time to tune in and check them out. Until then, I'm Blind, and I hope to see you in the next one.